Hey guys, this is Will with more videos from the Reality Enthusiast, and today we'll be talking about Magical Index Volume One. Um, I don't have the book to show you guys because I had to give it back to the library, but hey, we're gonna go through Volume One, which consists of the first 6 episodes of the anime. If you guys want to watch along, it's on Funimation, and it's also on Hulu, and it might be on Netflix too. I'm not quite sure. I'll double check that for next time. But the interesting thing about this is that the book, as I see it, because you have Toma, you have Mikasa, and you have Index in the first book. That's basically the main characters, and also Style and um, Kirigori. Um, so those are five. Two of those are sorcerers hunting Index because of the books that she has in her head. Now there's 3,000 um, grimoires in her head, approximately. It might not be the exact number, but there's these grimoires in her head, right? That if sorcerers get a hold of them, can use them for all dangerous sorts of purposes. Um, and the interesting thing about this is that the setting for these books take place in a scientific um, society where everything's based off of science. So, you know, their powers are based off of science, even though they appear to be like some sort of fictional, um, reality and, and stuff. But their powers are based off of science. The book does a very good job of, you know, kind of saying that, that they're actually using scientific abilities. The show, not so much, because the show basically treats it like they're superpowers, and there's no explanation for it. In fact, I watched these a couple months ago with my brother, and I basically said that Mikasa's railgun was electricity, and I still think that. But that's the main difference between the show in that regard, is that the book does a very good job of telling you that there's scientific abilities. The show, not so much. Um, and the other thing that I realized the book does better than the show is the pacing. It's a lot more descriptive, a lot more you know in depth. Now you would expect that with any book, but the show's pacing could be done a little bit better. It's still a great show, and I would still watch it because I like it. It's awesome. Um, but it would just be better if it was paced better. Um, now the the story starts with Toma being chased by um, some thugs because he thought Mikasa was in trouble, and she basically fries them because she's a level 5 Esper. Now that will come in handy later, and you'll get to see how that impacts on some things in her in her status. But for right now, you just need to know that she basically kicked these guys' butts, and that she wants to fight Toma because of the magic of his right hand. Now, it's not really magic, it just cancels out magic or scientific ability, so any abnormal ability, but it can't cancel out, like, everything. Like, if you were to throw um, a brick at him, he couldn't cancel that out because it's physical. So anything like magical or scientific ability related, he can cancel out. Um, so he battles her. He wins sort of to a draw, and she ends up, frying all his appliances in his dorm because this is a college city. So that ends up happening, and he ends up going outside to air out the futon in the book, or the couch in the anime, which I'll just call it a couch. And he goes to find Index, which is basically a nun, on his, balcony or porch or anything, you know. So he goes to find her on his porch, and she's hungry, so he feeds her some disgusting stuff. That is in the anime. It's a little boiled down. In fact, this whole conversation is a little bit boiled down because she goes over the whole grimoire thing. He goes over why isn't it there and everything, and it's a little more in depth. Basically extending the conversation. The anime does a very good job because it shortens it and everything. So, that's good because no one wants to sit through, more explanations of that. It's basically the same thing of him just saying, "Where are they?" and she's going and saying, "Oh, well, they're not there," or, anything. Now, this is where the second explanation of Toma's hand comes into play. And the anime also adapts this where he touches her habit because she's a nun, that protects her, and she asks him to test it. So he puts his hand on her, and the habit blows to pieces. So that's proving to Index his hand is legit and everything. So Toma is basically trying to protect this girl, even though she said she doesn't want his protection. So she leaves for the time being. And there's a little more, dialogue in his head about this while he's at school, and I didn't really get this all that much, but it's just a little more. Same thing with the other stuff. And just that it's a little more in depth. He comes back, she's beaten up, and he wonders why, and he sees this sorcerer Styles, which is the one of the main characters for now. I wanted to say third main character, but that's not right. So anyway, let's talk about Styles' age, because in the book, in the source material, he's about 14, which he doesn't look 14. He looks more like an adult male in his 20s in the show. Like, his height is just bigger. So that's the difference right there. And the fact that they wanted to age him up, which I totally agree with, because it just felt weird that he was a 14-year-old if he's supposed to be menacing and everything. So there's that. So Toma ends up fighting him for Index, and here's where I like the series, and both the book and the anime does, is the fact that it combines science with strategy. So basically goes and tries to fight this thing but can't fight it off, and discovers that there's runes on the walls. So he can't tear every single one of them down, so he ends up putting the sprinklers up and wiping the ink away. That tells you that there's actual thought in this book, and that science takes a play in everything, including how it affects magic, what the strategies are, and everything. So Styles ends up retreating because he's not exactly familiar with Toma's right hand and everything. So Toma ends up taking Index to Miss Komaway, his teacher, because he wants to heal her. Now, the reason he does this, and it's a little more clear in the book than the show. I mean, the show still addresses a bit. It's a little more explanation in there. In Academy City, there's you know there's espers and everything. So, but espers and magic, as Index described before this, because Toma has a little conversation before this with Index in like the park or something. He goes and says, is there any way we can heal you? And she goes, no, because magic and science are separate. So if you use magic, you can't use science. If you use science, you can't use magic. Typically, there are a few exceptions to that later, but typically that's the way it works. So all these people that use Esper abilities can't quite use the magical abilities. So he goes and gets the teacher that is like neutral. So she ends up healing Index through a ceremony, and because Toma's right hand would cancel out the effects of that ceremony, he goes over over the street and finds Kitagiri, one of the other sorcerers, and she ends up telling him about the significance of the memory wipe that Index thinks they're just trying to hunt her down for the grimoires, but Komagiri says that they're from the same church, same same sect of magical people, and that they need to wipe her memories, because otherwise she'll overexert herself. So Toma ends up fighting. He ends up losing, and he's found by Miss Conway, which I don't know why. I don't even think that's explained in the show, really, why. She just finds him randomly, which is really weird. She ends up bringing him back to her place, and Index starts explaining things about how the church is run, the different parts of it, and why why she decides to carry these grimoires as if they get into anyone's hands. They're deadly, they're awful. So that ends up happening, and then they get a call from the sorcerer saying that they'll pick up Index at such and such time at midnight, which has Toma thinking he has 24 hours to save Index before they wipe her memories. And then he has an idea of, okay, so if she has a perfect memory recall that she can't have any more memories, basically, and that's why they have to wipe her. Well, then why would anyone from that also has that condition survive more than 10 years? Because that would be, or 15, I think it is. That would be the condition of when they died. And the other thing is, this is another example of science mingling with magic, because this is an actual condition that people have. It's not really, but really serious, but it is a condition. So they end up going over the scientifics of this, and I'm not really a scientist, so I won't go too much into that, but basically saying that it's impossible because you can't have that happen to you, otherwise you die if you had that condition, and a lot of people have it, so a lot of people would die. Anyway, so Toma discovers that it's the church's doing for this by keeping a leash or a collar, as the book likes to call it, on Index. Now, I like the term leash better because it's not really a collar, but it's more of a safety measure to make sure that, you know, she's in control or being controlled. Because they don't know what she's going to do with the grimoires. So Style and Kirigiri stop by to pick up Index, and Toma runs this plan by them, right? So, and says what part would, you know, would the church what would the church do? And they tell him that would he risk her life for some silly um, assumption, which, you know, Style tests him with a cross as to whether he would, you know, take its power away, because he can take out any like magical thing, and he decides not to. So Style and Kirigiri allow him to do some mingling and, you know, touch the safety device. It ends up being in her mouth, and he ends up fighting the safety measures in Index's head. So he ends up canceling all that out, but because of the stress on his body, and because of the spells that were used in the battle, he wakes up in the hospital with no memory of what happened. Actually, you know, just who he is and nothing of what happened the last couple of years. So he's like a blank slate. Now he doesn't want Index to know this, because he doesn't want this girl to know that he doesn't know him. So, or know her. So he ends up lying to her and trying to find a way to make sure that he can have a new life without the the problems with his memory. So Index doesn't know that he's lost his memory. Mikasa doesn't know that he's lost his memory at this point. So that's where we're at. Now, this was the first book. So in the second book, it will be, I think, the arc called Blood, Vampire's Blood or something like that. That probably will come out either next week or the following week. And we'll see, and we'll get to see more of what makes Index special and everything. Now, if you guys want to follow along with the show, these were the first 6 episodes of the show. I would give it a watch, but just make sure that you are, 13 and above, because this is a teenage show. Well, teenage/adult show, so no little kid should watch this. Disclaimer and everything. So, and that goes with all the manga/light novel reviews that I'm going to be doing. Anyway, there should be a One Piece video. I do have the books with me. I'm almost done volume number 3. So what I'll end up doing is, because I have the volumes in threes, I have the first 9 volumes from the library. I will probably do a video concerning those 3 volumes, maybe the first 2, I don't know, but I have to watch the episodes first that pertain to those, and that'll probably take a little bit. So that'll probably either come out on Thursday or Friday of this week, maybe. And I plan on doing a review of Tough as Nails, which is a new show on CBS. It's not the greatest, and I will probably be making fun of it. But that's what I'll be doing on Wednesday. I'll post that after the episode airs. And I'll probably do a review for the first 2 episodes that have already aired. that'll probably be tomorrow's video. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. I hope you guys have a great day, and catch you guys on the next one. Bye.